This presentation will be new for most of you. Some of you have seen it, the ones who are in our suites program. You've seen this before. It doesn't hurt to go back over some of the stuff that we've covered. And we'll be doing that today. And then we have a little bit of an exercise at the end that's kind of a neat thing to do too. So without any further ado, I'm going to get started here. So how many people know what diabetes is? Okay. Anybody want to give me a definition of diabetes? That's correct. The body's inability to correctly process sugar. Diabetes results is a result of your pancreas not producing enough insulin to cover the amount of sugar that's in your bloodstream, okay? When we eat foods, that food is digested and the nutrients are removed and put into our bloodstream. The major source of energy for us is glucose, okay? Once food is broken down to glucose, it's in the bloodstream. It's initially in the bloodstream, and that's where it's supposed to be initially, but in order for it to do anything for us, it has to be transported from the bloodstream into our cells. And the carrier for that to kind of help do that is the insulin. It kind of acts as the key to the cell to unlock the door to get the sugar into the cells. When that doesn't happen appropriately, insulin is not enough, you end up with elevated blood sugars. And that's what diabetes is, that's the correct diagnosis for diabetes. It's actually elevated abnormal blood sugars, okay? There's a lot of stuff that will affect that. One of the things that we're gonna cover today is stress and how stress affects that process. Stress has the same impact regardless of whether or not you have diabetes. Every one of us, this will apply to, and the difference between the average person and somebody with diabetes is that if you have diabetes, you're already at a kind of a disadvantage because you're already not processing sugar the way that it should be, but this still can cause some issues with the rest of us, okay? Okay, what is stress? Can someone tell me what stress is? How many of us feel that we've been under stress at some point in time in our lives? Okay. All right, so if you've been under it, somebody should know what it is. Anybody want to give me a definition for that? Okay, you feel tense? Okay, that's a very good definition. The term stress was actually a term that was devised by a scientist named Hans Selye in 1936. Before that point, we kind of, everybody can say that they felt stress or felt unusual, abnormal, whatever, but they didn't really have an actual term to describe it, okay? He defines stress as the, quote, non-specific response of the body to any demand for change, okay? So stress occurs when we want our bodies to do something or there's a demand for our bodies to do something, okay? This scientist, he was a behavioral scientist, and he studied various things in behavior in animals. Specifically for this experimentations that he was doing, he noticed that during the experimentation with animals, the exposure to harmful physical stimuli changed stuff in the animals. Some of the things he exposed them to was, you know, bright lights, really loud noises, extremes of heat and cold, and those things resulted in actual physical changes that he was measuring in the animals. So those changes, he actually, those things that he exposed those animals to, he actually defined as stressors. So being really cold, being really hot, those he actually called stressors. And during the exposure to those stressors, he started to measure some changes in the organs and changes in the blood, the chemicals that were in the bloodstream. For instance, he started noticing some stomach ulcerations. So anybody ever heard of stress causing stomach ulcers? Okay. He was actually able to measure that in animals during his studies. So that kind of supports what happens with us. He started to notice some changes in some of the tissues, some enlargement of adrenal glands, which is, we'll get into what those cause in a minute, but those are some of the things he started noticing during his experimentations. The adrenals, the lymphoid tissues, those things are all part of the endocrine system. Our pancreas which is, you know, one of the issues with diabetes. That's also part of our endocrine system. All right, so in humans, when we're under stress, blood sugar levels start to go up, okay? It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter, you know, whether or not you're healthy or not healthy, physically active or not physically active. The response when you're under stress is to have your blood sugar levels go up. This is in relation to the fact that when we're under stress, our bodies demand for action. In order for us to act, we have to have the energy to do it, okay? And like I said before, our main source of energy is the glucose that's in our bloodstream. So the glucose that even was in our cells before is now dumped out to the bloodstream to get to certain organs to help us to function, okay? The hormones functions, they raise the blood sugar to give us the boost of energy that we need when we need it. Anybody heard of the fight or flight response? Okay, that's our body's response. So say something, we're walking along the trail and something jumps out at us, okay? At that point, our body decides whether or not it wants to fight whatever it is or take off and run the other direction, okay? That response is a stress response. That's a response to a stressor, which is whatever that was, animal, whatever person that jumped out at us, that's a stressor. Our body's response goes into our what we call the fight or flight response. That response is regulated by certain hormones that are getting released, okay? Because more energy is required, either to defend yourself or to run the other direction. You know, if your blood sugar is extremely low, you ain't running very far. So, you know, we have enough hormones that come out and cause that blood sugar level to go up to give us the speed and the strength we need to get away or to fight. This occurs with a physical response as well as an emotional response. So the physical response will be to run, okay? For an emotional stressor, somebody passes away, you have a death that's close, or someone that's close to you, and that can cause an increase in blood sugar also. Those same hormones are released. You get that same kind of stress feeling, and we have an increase in blood sugars at that point. All right. Some of the noticeable effects when you have those hormones that are released, you get the pupil dilation. That happens because you need to be able to see whatever it is that you're getting ready to defend yourself against. You also need to be able to see where you're running to. You don't want to run into a wall. You also get dryness of the mouth, and you get tense shoulders and neck. You know, it kind of tenses up. Your heartbeat goes quicker. That happens because you need that blood flow going to the organs and the muscles that you need in order to respond. And then your breathing gets fast and shallow because you need more oxygen. So it pumps more oxygen to those tissues as well. You get sweating because that's the normal response when the hormones are released. The hidden effects of those hormones, your brain gets your body ready. So all of those neural synapses are kind of connecting and getting you ready to respond. You get the adrenaline is produced as a result of the fight or flight response. Your liver is actually the one that's responsible for releasing glucose back out to your bloodstream. Okay, so when you get under stress, you get this dump of glucose from your liver to provide the energy that your muscles need in order to respond. And then your blood pressure goes up. So under stress, you got an increase of glucose, and you got an increased blood pressure. Those two things are not necessarily a good thing on a regular basis, okay? All right, people who have normal functioning pancreases, who don't have diabetes, are able to produce enough insulin, which is the hormone that I said that opens up the cells and allows that sugar to come out of your bloodstream and get into the cell. They have enough insulin that's produced in response to kind of regulate that glucose response. So your glucose shoots up, and somebody with normal function, your cells open up and the glucose goes where it's supposed to, okay? Somebody who has diabetes, they don't produce enough insulin, and so that sugar sits around in there in the bloodstream causing damage. So they had an elevation of blood sugar, and instead of going into the cells to get them ready to run or to fight or whatever it is the response needs to be, it's just sitting there causing damage to those organs, okay? That is the end result of that is an increase in all of the things you hear about diabetes. Oh, well, you got organ damage, or somebody who had diabetes had to have the, kidney replacement, or they had to have, the kidneys went bad, so now they're having to go get the dialysis and all this other stuff that you hear about. That is the result of that, okay? And you see in the picture there, you can see the liver, you can see the pancreas there, the small intestine. That's kind of where everything takes place. All righty, so we live in a world that's full of stress. What can we do? You can't get away from stress. I mean, the only way to get away from stress is to die, and that's pretty much it. So what can we do in order to help fix this problem? I mean, you can walk out your front door and have a stress, have something stress you. You can, you show up to work and you think everything is done right, and you get a response back from your boss that says, oh, no, you've got to redo that whole project because, something's changed or whatever. Okay, now you're under stress. That we can't get away from that kind of stuff. So the first thing to do, and it's the most important, is to realize when your own body is feeling stress. It varies from one person to the next. It is something that's very individualized. Some people handle stressful situations better than others, and you know what stresses you, okay? If it's possible to avoid those things, then you avoid them, okay? Like I said, your boss is telling you something to do. Well, you can't necessarily say, heck, no, I'm not doing it. Not unless you want to be unemployed. But if, for instance, like me, I don't like horror movies. I don't like horror movies, which is kind of funny because growing up, we used to watch them all the time because it was funny being scared. Now, as an adult, I hate them. There's nothing that's appealing to me at all. I'm like, oh, well, that was a good movie. No, not for me. It wouldn't have been a good movie because I'd have been like this the whole time. So I don't like horror movies, okay? That is something that is a stressor for me, a serious stressor. I mean, I come out of the thing shaking like this. It's just not good. So for me, I don't watch horror movies at all. You can't pay me enough money to sit in a theater and have stuff jumping in and out and all that. There's nothing that appeals to me at all. So I avoid those. So that two hours worth of movies, I don't have to have those stress hormones running around in my body causing my blood sugar levels to be elevated. So that's something that I can avoid. I know that to be the case for me, I avoid it. So if it's something that you can avoid, then you avoid it, okay? That's the best way to keep from feeling stressed or being under stress. When it's something that you can control, okay, you should avoid or limit your exposure to it. When it's not, and you have to deal with it, then we have to come up with ways to kind of help you deal with the stress so it doesn't affect you as greatly. For people who are diabetic, whenever you're under stress and you're noticing that you're having a lot of stress going on in your life, it's really, really important that you keep a real close watch on your blood glucose levels. Because if indeed you're having these things stress you out, it's not unusual, and in fact, it's very usual to see your glucose levels start to rise. And usually, if you're keeping your logs like you're supposed to, you can go back and look and say, ooh, that was a 200. Where'd that come from? Oh, yeah, that was when XYZ was going on. And you can kind of pinpoint and say, okay, that's something that really stresses me because it will respond. You'll see the response in your blood glucose levels, okay? So you need to be checking your sugar levels a lot more frequently during times when you're having a lot of stress. And to help that out, what you do is you decrease your carb intake, okay? So carbohydrates is a source of sugar for us. If you're under a lot of stress, some people are like, oh, I want comfort food, If you're under a lot of stress, your sugar levels are already going to be a little bit elevated, even the regular person. So you want to kind of watch that carb intake because it's going to push it up even higher, okay? For people who are on insulin, you want to look and see. Sometimes you have to adjust what we call the sliding dose insulin to kind of cover that when your levels are going up. And then finally, just chill out. I mean, stress is going to be there. It's going to be whatever the stressor is going to be there when you wake up tomorrow or the next day. It might very well be there. And it's not a whole lot when you can't control the situation. You may not be able to remove that stressor. So knowing that, don't make it worse by worrying about it, freaking out about it. Chill out, okay? Find ways to kind of decrease the impact that stress is having on your body. Relaxation and relaxing activities, things that you enjoy doing, are going to be key to you relaxing, okay? Reducing those stress levels by finding time to relax. Even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, you need to be able to do that. One example of that is something called progressive relaxation therapy, which is what we're going to get into in a minute. And it doesn't take a whole lot of, equipment. It doesn't take a whole lot of, wide, strenuous setup. It takes 5 minutes in a quiet room, okay? If you can find 5 minutes in a quiet room, this particular activity will greatly, greatly, greatly reduce your stress and then the response that your body has to stress. And it lingers. It's not just during that 5 minutes. It's later on during the day and whatever else that you have to deal with, something comes up. It'll help keep your levels a little bit lower. And, like I said, you can do it any time. 5 minutes is what it takes, okay? Anybody have any questions so far? Okay. We're going to get into this activity. And for that, I'm going to need everybody to kind of put your feet on the floor, your arms in your lap with your palms kind of facing up like this, okay? And you're going to need to close your eyes, okay? Your hands should be in this position. Okay. All righty. All right, we're going to start by, I want you to kind of focus on your toes, okay, inside your shoes. I want you to kind of wiggle your toes a little bit and kind of feel them in your shoes, okay? Now I want you to kind of tighten up your toes into a little ball, kind of squeeze them tight. And we're going to count back from 5, and I want you to hold that position until we get to the end, okay? So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now relax. Kind of wiggle them around again, okay? Now I want you to focus on your ankles, okay? And I want you to kind of flex your feet forward in your shoes, kind of like you're going to stand on your tiptoes. And we're going to hold that position for a count of 5 also. So flex forward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Okay? We're going to move on up, and I want you to think about your calves. Think about what they feel like, okay? And I want you to contract your calves, and I want you to do the opposite. Instead of standing on your toes, I want you to flex your toes forward, okay, like you're going to stand on your heels. And you're going to do that for a count of 5 also, okay? Flex them up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax, okay? Move on up to your thigh muscles, okay? And I want you to contract those also. We're going to do that for 5. So focus on those and contract for me. Ready? Contract. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax those muscles. Okay? Focus on your wrists. Okay? And your fingers. I want you to tighten your hands into a fist, and we're going to count that for 5. Okay? Tighten them up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax them. Kind of wiggle your fingers a little bit. Okay, good. We're going to do elbows next. So I want you to flex those up like you're going to make a muscle. Okay? Flex them up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax them. Okay? Next, we're doing shoulders, okay? So I want you to kind of move your shoulders around a little bit, and then we're going to pull them up like you're going to touch your ears. Okay? Hold it up really tight for 5, count of 5. You ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax them. Okay? Open your eyes. So that only takes a few minutes. And you just do that, and if you have time, you start over again and work your way back down towards your toes. Once you're finished doing that, that actually helps get you a little bit less stress throughout the day. And you know, if you're able to do it in a room that's even a little bit darker than this, it's even better, okay? Without somebody yelling in your ear in the microphone telling you what to do. You just kind of, you kind of just do that, and if you can do it for a full 5 minutes, that makes a huge difference in managing your stress levels, okay? Any questions? Okay, that's all I have for you today.